What's going on, Dolphins fans? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and I'm back. I know it's been a while since my last video. I apologize. I've kind of just been in my bag, kind of just focusing on my future and trying to figure things out and plan things ahead. That's no excuse, though. Honestly, it was just lack of execution. But I just want to start this out with I genuinely appreciate every single person watching this video. It means a ton to me. The fact that you guys come to me for Dolphins content and listen to what I have to say, it means a lot to me, and I don't take it for granted regardless of how many people it is or who it is. I appreciate every single one of you, and I genuinely mean that, and that's why I'm going to be trying to give away some Dolphins merchandise coming up. I've got some giveaways on my Twitter and Instagram if you guys are interested, links below. But without further ado, I'm going to get right into the video, and as you guys can see, it's the remaining needs of the Dolphins, and honestly, there's not many, which is tremendous because usually every year you go into it and you're like, I don't know how this position is going to hold up. And there's still that little worry. However, between the draft and the late free agent signings that happen in a year, I'm pretty confident that we're going to get done. And some of the needs aren't necessarily needs. It's just like you can get better, but you don't necessarily need to. So obviously everybody knows the top need, whether it's on Twitter or you see it everywhere, but it's right tackle. Currently, our slated right tackle starter is Austin Jackson, and obviously he's had a bad history with the Dolphins, but he's never been set up to succeed. So his rookie year, he started at left tackle, then his following year moved to left guard, and then the following year moved to right tackle. So he's been moved around. Last year, the coaching staff seemed pretty pleased with his development. He suffered 2 injuries, same injury but different ankle kind of deal. But they all seem very pleased with the progress and who he was as a player, and this scheme benefits athletic offensive linemen, and he's one of those guys. With that said, your only plan can't be to go into the season with Austin Jackson at right tackle. They need depth. They need to have a plan, which in my eyes, they need to address that either in the draft or a cheap free agent signing, because the alternative to Austin Jackson at right tackle, it's not really on the roster unless they intend to go Robert Hunt at right tackle, which is been kind of shot down from Chris Greer and other people. So I would say right tackle is the biggest issue on the roster. If they bring in a starting right tackle, that solves the offensive line issue entirely, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to do that based off of what they've done, and the right tackle market's kind of dried up. So I think they're going to try to address it in the draft. They're going to sign or draft someone pretty late to compete with Austin Jackson at right tackle. Which means I think the offensive line is going to have 2 competitions on it between right tackle and left guard. In my ideal world, like I said, we sign a right tackle that's no doubt starter. And then that way you have Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, and Robert Jones compete for left guard. Like I said, it doesn't look that way. I think we're going to have Austin Jackson and somebody competing for right tackle. And for left guard, we're going to have Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones starting for left guard. So it's not the worst position to be in. I would have liked a more sure right tackle, especially with Tua being a lefty and his blind side being right tackle. And this team's built to try and win a Super Bowl. When you get deep into the playoffs, every single team is going to have nasty pass rushers coming after you. And if you're weak on the side, it's going to be exploited. Unless Teron Armstead's completely healthy and dialed in one-on-one, he's left on an island, then I'll be a little more comfortable. We give protection to Austin Jackson's side. But Teron Armstead obviously has not been able to hold up. He's a warrior, don't get twisted. He fights through many injuries, but they keep happening and they kind of snowball, you know what I mean? So I think the right tackle is the biggest need. It'll probably be addressed with a cheap free agent signing and or in the draft. So I don't know if it'll be big enough to knock Austin Jackson out of the starting right tackle spot, but at least bring in competition. So I legit think the Dolphins have one more potential need outside of depth, which would be tight end. Obviously, we extended Durham Smythe. I think all signs point to Durham Smythe being the starting tight end. And I know Durham gets a lot of hate, whether it be on social media or from fans. He's not a flashy tight end, but he's reliable. He's not a complete liability in the passing game. He's not super athletic. He's not going to give you rack or break tackles or anything, but he's going to he's going to find his windows. He's going to catch the ball, and that's about it. You know what I mean? He gives you, and then in the run game, he's a solid blocker. He's not the best, he's not the worst, but he's solid. So as long as he's good enough to block to be able to sell the play action pass, that's kind of all we need from the tight end position. Obviously, if you have a high-end tight end, it just makes it that much better, and that's what I would love for the Dolphins to have. And like I said, I don't think they're going to go out and make a big move, but I think they're going to go add somebody to the position in the draft. Will it be at 51? Maybe, but I honestly think the Dolphins will go best player available because it's not a glaring hole. Obviously, if you had a more upside guy, perfect, but tight end's a position that takes a while to transition into, so I think the Dolphins probably get somebody that you hope develops in a year or two to be your starting tight end that gives you more upside than Durham Smythe, but I think Durham Smythe's a solid stopgap guy that isn't going to be a liability. So aside from that, I think it's depth. I think you need to get a running back late at least to just compete and maybe be there for later in the season. We know how the scheme works for running backs. You can find them anywhere. And our running backs are pretty old, between obviously Mostert, Wilson. Ahmed's young, but we know what we have in our running back room. Get a guy, have him compete in camp, and maybe he makes a team. Receiver is absolutely loaded with the signing of Chosen Anderson. So aside from offensive line, there really isn't any need on the offense. Defensively, like, I don't see a need either besides like depth on the defensive line, but like Wilkins and Sealer as starters or studs on the edges between Agba, Phillips, Chubb, like you're set. Andrew Van Ginkel's there. Like inside linebacker can maybe use a little bit of help, but we're probably only going to be using 2 linebackers most of the time, which you have Jerome Baker and David Long. You have backups in Duke Riley and Channing Tindall, so maybe you could use a little depth there, but it's not necessarily needed. And then cornerbacks got the depth too. We got Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Keon Crosson's still on the team, Kader Kohu's still there, Nick Needham recovering from an Achilles, I believe, but he's still there. Justin Bethel's still there. So like we've got depth. And then for safety, we added Sean Elliott to our already good safety room with Javon Holland and Brandon Jones. So I don't really see a hole on defense aside from depth, but that's my take on the roster. Dolphins look prime and ready to win as many games as possible, hopefully make a big playoff run this season. Comment down below what you think the needs are, and my future content is going to be on the draft. I dropped new shirts on the dolphinsdive.com too, really cool Tua design if you guys are interested. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I genuinely appreciate everybody for watching. It means so much to me, and I'm going to continue to try and put the best content out there for you guys because I genuinely value your guys' viewership. So until next time, I'll catch y'all.